Today's event. I'd like to invite here, up on the speaker here, Omer Kanat, Executive Director of Uyghur Human Rights Project.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Assalamu alaikum aziz qarindoshlar. Night bugun hammaylar night yaxshi kapsizlar, night xush olduk ve men night hayajonlanib o'tibman haqiqatan. Bundaq cho'ng namoyish tunji qitim o'tkazilyapti. Bu Uyg'urlarniki mushunchalik ko'p ishtiroki bilan shuning bak hayajonliman. Today is not a day of celebration for our people. Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Tibetans, Mongolians, and even Chinese have spent 71 years under Communist Party's brutal repression. This is not our national day. This is the day of mourning for us, a day of occupation. I want to thank the organizers of Resist China Coalition that we have come together, different peoples, different groups sends a strong message. The message we are sending is the Chinese Communist Party must end its tyranny over our lives. We demand our fundamental right to exist as free and independent peoples. Xi Jinping's goal is total control of our land and domination of our societies. To be Uyghur, Tibetan, Mongolian, and a dissenting Chinese is a crime. You must, if not, Xi told his officials, show absolute no mercy. The world needs to stop believing China will tolerate diversity. The Chinese Communist Party sees pluralism as an existential threat. The reason the party does anything is to maintain power. This has only intensified under Xi Jinping. The motivation for brutal crackdown on Uyghurs is this need for absolute power. With a separate ethno-religious identity, the Uyghurs are a threat to the Xi personality cult. The party is eliminating this threat with policies that amount nothing less than genocide. The world is watching the erasure of our language, faith, religious sites, history, knowledge, neighborhoods, and family ties. The Chinese government has arbitrarily interned millions of my people. If Uyghurs are not in concentration camps, they are in prison, forced labor factories, or open-air prisons of absolute surveillance. The world cannot be complicit. What is happening to Uyghurs matters to every one of us. The cotton grown on Uyghur land and the clothing made by Uyghur forced labor sit on store shelves around the world. Chinese companies develop and sell technologies of total surveillance tested on Uyghurs across the globe. We can become educated about these issues, but even better, we can become active in resisting these atrocity crimes. This fight will not be easy. Yet, when I see the coming together of the coalition, I have hope. I have hope because we present the very thing Xi and the party fear the most. That is unity and the possibility that a different future, a free future, a just future is possible. Thank you.
Okay, next, I would like to invite up on the microphone here, Tenzin Yurton to read the press statement. She is the president of Regional Tibetan Youth Congress. Tenzin Yurton.
Good morning, all. Global groups opposing Chinese Communist Party staged the largest ever joint cross-movement action. Activists demand governments take immediate action against the Chinese Communist Party on the 71st anniversary of the founding of People's Republic of China. Washington, D.C. on the October 1st, 2020, the anniversary of the founding of the Peoples of China's Republic of China, over the 150 civil society groups representing Tibetan Uyghur, Hong Kongers, Southern Mongolia, Taiwanese, and Chinese democracy groups staged the largest coordinated cross-movement action ever, calling on governments to take a strong multilateral stand in the response to unprecedented human rights abuse perpetrated by the Chinese Communist Party. On the Global Day of Action, protests taking places in 61 cities around the world in the show of international solidarity amongst Chinese human rights defenders, Tibetans, Uyghur, Hong Kongers, Southern Mongolians, and Taiwanese, coming together to recognize the present threat posed by the CCP to communities living under its rule, and for freedom, democracy, and human rights in China and globally. The legal occupation of Tibet, arbitrary detentions of millions of Uyghurs in internment camps, loss of fundamental freedoms in Hong Kong, erasure of Southern Mongolian culture and language, intimidation of bullying of Taiwanese, and the detention, disappearance, and silencing of countless Chinese lawyers and activists illustrate the scale of existing concern across the country. The issues faced by each and every community is a reflection of the CCP's blatant disregard of the rights of those living in China and its occupied countries, and the desire of Xi Jinping to consolidate power and forcibly stifle dissent. A growing chorus of voices have already begun to push back against many of these abuses. In June 2020, the Interparliamentary Alliance on China was established to promote a coordinated response between democratic states to challenge posed by the present conduct and future ambitions of the People's Republic of China. The alliance is made up of nationally elected legislators, including 36 co-chairs and one and called for decisive measures to protect fundamental freedoms in China. In July 2019, 25 UN member states sent a letter to the High Commission for Human Rights and Human Rights Council President urging China to end mass arbitrary detentions and other violations against Uyghurs, other Turkic peoples. We are therefore calling on governments to take strong multilateral rights abuse perpetrated by the Chinese government and demand China immediately fulfill its human rights obligation in all bilateral and multilateral dialogues and exchanges. Establish an independent UN Human Rights Council mechanism to access and monitor the outgoing human rights violation in China, particularly in relation to East Turkestan, Tibet, Hong Kong, and Southern Mongolia. Impose targeted sanctions such as the U.S. Global Act, the Canadian Justice for Victims of Corrupt Foreign Official Act, and the UK Criminal Finances Act against senior Chinese government officials linked to human rights abuses. Impose economic sanctions on companies that are profiteering by aiding and abetting Chinese genocidal and colonial policies in Tibet and East Turkestan. Revisit government's policy toward the PRC and Taiwan, urging it to revise its One China policy and support Taiwan's democracy. Condemn the PRC's military intimidation of Taiwan and support Taiwan's meaningful participation and inclusive in international organizations. Contact Doji Siden Student for Free Tibet at 646-753-3889. Thank you.
Thank you, Yadula. Next, I have here Representative Tom Swazi. Representative Swazi just is a member of the Congressional Executive Commission on China, CECC. And just yesterday, they had a hearing on the current situation in Tibet. And
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much. Tujiche. Thank you and good afternoon. Ni hao. And thank you to all my friends that are here. Shukran, Tujiche, Sheshe. It's so wonderful to see all the different groups that are here together, united and wearing the same colors from all the different groups that are being persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party, whether you're the Uyghurs or the Tibetans, or in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong students, the Mongolians. Thank you so much for all being united together today. The Chinese Communist Party has a plan. They've thought it out very well. They've been planning for decades. They want to have control and dominance in the world. We see it in the Belt and Road Initiative. We see it in them trying to influence so many things economically, politically, technologically, in the space, on the land, in the air, on the water. There's so many things that they want to control. And when we see how they treat their own people and the people in the region, it's not something we want to see happen in our world. It was almost 50 years ago that President Nixon went to China to try and build a relationship. And most Americans have believed for that time period that over time, the Chinese Communist Party would become more like us. They'd be exposed to our democratic system. They'd be exposed to the modern economy, and they would adopt our way of life. That simply has not happened. We see it in so many different ways. We see it with the Uyghurs. It was mentioned that we held a hearing on the Uyghurs just the other day, and we heard things like not only forced labor, but forced sterilization, forcing people to eat pork when it violates their religion, forcing people to eat when their religion dictates that they be fasting, forcing people to change their language. We had a hearing yesterday with on Tibet. It was 61 years ago that the Dalai Lama was exiled from his country. 25 years that the Panchen Lama being created for the Tibetans. We see, I think just today, 60 people arrested in Hong Kong for trying to speak out against the Chinese Communist Party and their authoritarian rule. In my home state of New York, just recently, we saw a New York City police officer arrested because he was spying on the Tibetan community on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. We see the Chinese exporting their ideas. We had a library in Elmhurst, Queens, where they were showing what they claimed was Chinese history, expunged of any of the things that we're talking about today and expunged of much of China's history. And we had that exhibition removed. We see the influence in the Confucius centers, the funding used to try and export this ideology and this sanitized version of propaganda of what's going on in China. Thank you all for being here to help us to wake up to the reality of how the Chinese Communist Party views the individual worth of people, of how they treat people. It cannot be sanitized through new movies. It can't be sanitized by slick brochures, by sanitized versions of history. It can't be papered over in trade deals. We must recognize the threat that the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government have not only to its own people, but to all free-loving people throughout the world. I want you to know I'll stand with you to try and expose what's going on and work together to try and bring this to the attention of the American people. Thank you very much. Tujiche, sheshe.
Thank you very much, Congress Swazi, for taking the time to speak and support us here on this Global Day action. We appreciate your time, your precious time, sir. Thank you very much. Next, I have here as a speaker Kongo Ngudup Tsering, who is a representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, located here in Washington, D.C., from the Office of Tibet. Kongo.
Tashi Dilek, and good morning. I'm honored to join all of you at the Global Day of Action. 70 years ago, Chinese communists invaded Tibet. Since then, 1.2 million Tibetans have died through starvation, execution, and torture. More than 6,000 monasteries were razed to the ground. Monks were disrobed, and nuns were raped. The International Commission of Jurists in 1960 reported that genocide has taken place in Tibet. Now it's happening in East Turkestan. The dire situation in Tibet continues still till date, and in fact, it's becoming worse. 156 Tibetans committed self-immolations in protest. The constant mass surveillance, labor camps, arbitrary detention, and forced disappearances are the prevailing norms in Tibet and in all our communities. The whole of Tibet is a police state and under lockdown for decades. His Holiness the Dalai Lama described the situation in Tibet, quote unquote, as a hell on earth. This is a story the Chinese Communist Party has been trying to destroy, but it is a memory that Tibetan people must preserve. Tibetans and supporters have raised the alarm of CCP, their expansionist design over time, but little was done to resist the onslaughts. The economic greed and the appeasement policy by the free world emboldened the CCP, and more acts of brutalities and belligerence continued and intensified. However, the recent pandemic enabled the free world to see the true color of the CCP. Now there is some sort of global awakening on the evil designs of the CCP to control the world. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said this in Los Angeles last August. I quote, "If we do not act now," he is talking to the American and world people, "ultimately the CCP will enable our freedoms and subvert the rule-based order that our societies have worked so hard to build." He further says, "If we bend our knees now, our children's children may be at the mercy of Chinese Communist Party one day, unquote. This sums up the price the free world is paying by looking the other way. Having said that, we must also acknowledge the historic legislations passed by the US Congress on Tibet, Uyghur, Hong Kong, and Taiwan in recent times.
Michael, do you have a card? Why don't you give a card to this woman so she has how to spell my name? Why don't you come and do this together so we do both at the same time?
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Sat Sri Akal. Wait, let him come and do it at the same time.
Yeah, coming together.
Senator and Senator Rubio for sponsoring the Tibet Policy and Support Act. It got passed in the House by overwhelming majority. We are looking forward to a similar passage in the Senate as soon as possible. We know that even in the midst of pandemic, CCP has been actively implementing measures such as ethnic unity law, Sinicization of Tibetan Buddhism, patriotic re-education of Tibetan youth, bilingual curriculum. All these are aimed to systematically wipe out identity and heritage of Tibetan people from the face of the earth. But we refuse to be eliminated. It doesn't stop there. As Congressman Tom Sawthe just mentioned, they are active in the diaspora community too, trying to spy on. Hong Kongers, Southern Mongolians, Falun Gong, Christians, Taiwanese, and Chinese citizens themselves to fight the CCP collectively. In individual numbers, we are not that many. However, if all of us stand together, we are strong. There is a strength in the numbers and force in solidarity. Therefore, I would like to honestly congratulate the organizers of this Global Day of Action to Resist China. May I also call upon the international community to stand in solidarity with us, not just for our freedom and human rights, but for your freedom and democratic values which are at stake right now as well. Thank you to the organizers, and thank you, students of Free Tibet, for giving me this opportunity to say a few words. Thank you. Press delay.
Thank you, Mututsirela. Next, I would like to ask Mr. Engabadu Togoshok, Director of Southern Mongolia Human Rights and Information Center.
Semachano, good morning. My name is Enkwat Tochik. I'm from Southern Mongolia, which is one of the 3 nations occupied and colonized by the People's Republic of China. 71 years ago, China invaded my nation and called it a nationality minority autonomous region. During these 71 years, the Chinese colonial regime has carried out a series of heavy-handed ethnic policies, including genocide, political persecution, economic exploitation, cultural eradication, and environmental destruction. Hundreds of thousands of Mongolians lost their life, and millions have persecuted just for being who they are. The other 2 nations, including Tibet and East Turkestan, are also experiencing the same tragic fate. Once free Hong Kong is now suffering under the communist regime's authoritarian rule. De facto independent sovereign nation of Taiwan is also under the threat of Chinese aggression. 1.5 billion Chinese citizens are suffering under the state terror of the communist regime. What is even more alarming is that the free world is under threat. The universal value of democracy, human rights, and human dignity is threatened by the Chinese neo-colonialism and global hegemony. The Chinese issue is no longer just the colonial occupation of Southern Mongolia, Tibet, and East Turkestan. It is a global threat. It is an existential threat to the rest of the world. The world, especially free world, including the United States, must take immediate and drastic actions before it is too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. I'm sorry, Engabadu. Next, I would like to invite Rushan Abbas, Campaign for Uyghurs.
Thank you all for coming together here today to raise your voice for those who cannot. There is no equivalency between the Chinese regime and any other governments in the world. China does not possess a government. It does not have citizens. It is a regime that views human beings as expendable tools. It's a technologically enabled barbarism. I'm here to cry out to stop the genocide. Yes, genocide. The Uyghur people in East Turkestan are currently facing. Uyghurs, may our name also pierce not just your ears, but your heart. Our people are being exterminated. There is too many witnesses to this barbaric regime's atrocious crimes. Crimes that includes forced marriage, mass rape, forced abortions, forced sterilizations, arrest, torture, child abduction, slavery, indoctrination, brainwashing, organ harvesting, crematoria, medical experiments, and genocide. The world cannot deny our cries any longer, and they cannot justify looking away. Yes, it seems the international community has invited the murderer to judge his own trial in the United Nations Human Rights Council. China used its blood money and has silenced the United Nations. They have silenced the World Health Organization, the NBA, the Hollywood. They have silenced the International Olympic Committee. They have silenced the academic institutions. We cannot be silent any longer. Silence will not save you. Even complicity will not. Millions of innocent Uyghurs must be free. My sister, Dr. Gulshan Abbas, must be free. Did the CCP expect us to go silently to our graves? We will not. The Chinese regime is foolishly clinging to their evil ways. How will they be able to defend themselves? They cannot. Justice will be had, and the truth always prevail. The name of China has been ruined, and this shame will not be erased for 1,000 generations. We demand of the entire world, do not be counted with them. The conscience of the world is being tested today. We use our words as weapons. By them, the oppressors are condemned. The Chinese regime and Xi Jinping have shown that they will fear most our words and the thoughts which lead us to action like this today. May their worst fear be realized as citizens of the world unite in saying, resist China. I am here to warn the world. The fate of the Uyghurs is what stands before us all, unless if we act now. We must unite against this authoritarian monster to save the soul of the humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Roshan. Next, I'd like to ask Christina Olney from Victim of Communists to speak a few words.
Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here. It is an honor to be standing with you. Today marks the 71st anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party's rise to power. The same Marxist-Leninist regime that has killed tens of millions of its people since its founding, including crushing peaceful protesters in Tiananmen Square 31 years ago, is still ruling in Beijing today. And under the leadership of Xi Jinping, it has become an even more repressive and tyrannical regime. From Xinjiang to Tibet to Mongolia to Hong Kong, Beijing is crushing the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all the provinces and peoples under its control. In Xinjiang, there are up to 3 million Uyghurs in detention camps who are being forced to renounce their religion, being subjected to forced labor, and from a recent groundbreaking report by my colleague Adrian Zenz, which was based largely on Chinese government data, we now know that at least 80% of Uyghur women of childbearing age are being subjected to forced sterilization. Many experts have agreed that these policies constitute genocide. Since Beijing invaded Tibet in 1950, the CCP has been waging a systematic campaign to erase Tibetan culture and religion, destroying thousands of monasteries, preventing the passing on of the Tibetan language, and even controlling their religious authorities. You heard this morning that it has been 61 years since the Dalai Lama was exiled from his homeland, and 25 years since the Chinese Communist Party's abduction of the Panchen Lama. In Hong Kong, Beijing has crushed the one country, two systems policy with the institution of the national security law this past June. The once free city, which served as a beacon of liberty in the region, has now become merely another province of communist China, another East Berlin, and a bleak example of communist oppression. We are gathered here today on this anniversary to resist the Chinese Communist Party and to stand for the freedom and human rights of all peoples across China. No tyranny can survive forever. The 20th century is proof of that. Many thought that the Soviet Union would never fall. Yet today, captive nations once under its control are prosperous democracies. The same fate will one day befall the Chinese Communist Party. And Tibetans, Uyghurs, Mongolians, and Hong Kongers, and all other peoples in China will be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Yes, we will all be free one day. Next, I'd like to ask Joyce Ho to come up here and speak a few words. Joyce Ho is a Hong Kong student activist. Joyce?
Hello, everybody. Thank you. My name is Joyce Ho, and I am 18 years old. I'm an American Hong Konger from New York City. I am the creator of Project Black Mask and a member of NY4HK, New Yorkers for Hong Kong. I want to thank you all for having me here today. Over the past year, Hong Kong has become the home of a humanitarian crisis because it is under attack by its own government that has been serving as a puppet to the CCP. Hong Kong was promised autonomy for 50 years under the Sino-British Joint Declaration of 1984. And it has only been 23 years since the handover of 1997, and the agreements made between the Chinese and the British government in this declaration are already being violated. The Hong Kong police force, Hong Kong government, and the CCP have committed unspeakable crimes to the people of Hong Kong. Since the anti-extradition bill protests of 2019, the Hong Kong police force has been using extreme police brutality to silence the voices of protesters. The Chinese and Hong Kong governments have approved of the police force acts of violence and have ignored the protests of approximately 3 million Hong Kongers. I am here today to represent the Hong Kong people in protesting against the Chinese government. And on this global day of action, we are proud to show them that we will not stand down until we win. In addition to this, I am here today to represent and tell the younger generation that we can make a difference. The Hong Kong protests are primarily fueled by the youth, and it really goes to show how influential and powerful the youth voice can be. It is our duty to support pro-democracy and human rights movements because we are the future of this world. There are so many ways for us youngsters to show the world that we are capable. For example, I created Project Black Mask Hong Kong on Facebook and YouTube as a platform for the international community to show solidarity with Hong Kong and every single group represented here today, and to update all the followers on horrific events happening in Hong Kong, such as the 12 young Hong Kongers who were taken and detained by the CCP for 40 days and counting. There have been too many instances where we have seen the influence of the CCP on a global level. And it goes without saying that they should have absolutely no jurisdiction over any other place in this world. Their evil tactics and ideals are seeping into this country, and I guarantee that there will be negative consequences. Hong Kongers have started a new campaign called #WeAreAllHongKongers to highlight the fact that the danger that the CCP poses to our world has effectively made us all Hong Kongers. Because now it is not only Hong Kongers who are in danger, but every single person on this planet. Every person on this planet is in danger if the Chinese government gains any more power. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. As people of the world, we have a duty to fight against injustice and stand with Hong Kong and all of the other groups that are represented here today. The CCP absolutely does not and will not own this world, and we have the power to show them that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. What the young activists are doing in Hong Kong are very inspiring for all of us. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to ask you to turn your attentions behind you. The Uyghur American Association is going to stage a political theater. Please turn your attention behind you at the political theater.
What time because I want to go to the restaurant. Is my speech there? Is that okay?
Yeah, you're next.
I'm the next?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I was going to go to the restaurant. Oh my God, it's hard in the pandemic. Because of China, now restaurants are closed.
No, everything is good.
Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you.
正面，正面，正面。
你这镜头里做一点变化，或者拍这几个人啊之类的，你不是就是扫一扫，用你的棒扫一扫。然后跟那小女孩走过来了，你盯着她，你把她 zoom in。
没有爸爸妈妈在这里了。You cannot be here. You have no mother. You have no father. Get over here. You have no mother here. Get up here. Off to the orphanage for you.
No filming here.
We have a new Uyghur to the camp. Over here.
Head down. I'm not a minute. 25 years old. Crime? Refusing to marry a Chinese government official. Stand up straight. Head down.
Uyghur Mehmet, 25 yaş.
No mercy! Hassan Babu, 30 years old. What's his crime? Throwing a filthy beard. Step forward!
Öldürülmüş, çıkarılmıyor, cinayeti, çetlerdeki tutanlara karşı bulunduğundan.
Who is our next victim? How do you mean? Look me in the eyes, boy. 20 years old? What was your crime?
Calling overseas relatives.
That's not loud enough! Oh, boy! What's your crime?
I call my family overseas.
You disgust me. No mercy! Repeat after me, no mercy!
Адыраймыз, жүгірмеш! Жинайты, шарталдыке тұққаларға телефон қылған.
I know this one's a little rowdy. Come take him with you. Let's down!
Last one of the day.
Mehmet Salih, come forward now! Look at me. 45 years old. To do with you. Crime. Attending a religious wedding. What did we say about that? Huh? Get him in uniform now.
Mehmet Salih, 45 yaş. Cinayeti YK katnaşkan.
Tight, right? Let's go. Head down.
I forgot to ask anyone. Which would be
Hey!
Okay?
I am going to break you.
Voltage on 3!
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the Uyghur American Association. This is a very powerful political theater here. Thinking about my own people in Tibet and the recently 500,000 Tibetan nomads who are being forced into labor camps, and thinking about their situation reminds me it's very, very strong. Thank you for this. Next, I'd like to ask Kuzat Alte the president of Uyghur American Association, to say a few words here.
It's going to be very difficult to talk after this demonstration. I would like to thank our friends here, Tibetan, Hong Kongers, Mongolian, and my dear Uyghur fellow. Thank you so much today for the demonstration. Thank you for standing up for our millions of brothers and sisters that are suffering crimes against humanity in China. I want to thank the Vice President of Uyghur American Association, Al-Fadar, the Program Manager, Max Gelber, for organizing this event and a demonstration. Thank you. Today I'm here. I have multiple identity. One of them is President of Uyghur American Association. However, I started this journey as a son of the victim of the Chinese concentration camp. My 67-year-old retired father in 2018 was taken to the Chinese concentration camp. He stayed there for 23 months, almost 2 years. For 2 years, I couldn't talk to him. I did not know he's alive or he passed away, just like many thousands of Uyghurs in East Turkestan. After I became the president of Uyghur American Association, I saw my father on TV. He was released from the concentration camp. My father, currently he's 69. Chinese authority has beat him, broke his leg. 69-year-old man with a broken leg. They forced him to walk with broken leg. And he is one of the lucky ones because he's released. Just because we don't see, it doesn't mean it's not happening. How difficult it is to watch just 100 people here. What are they going through? How difficult it is to watch one child in a child camp. How difficult to watch the organ harvesting there. How difficult to watch the sterilized 4 women. It is happening to millions of Uyghurs, Kazakh, Kyrgyz in East Turkestan. It's happening for Tibetans. And it's time to stop China. We said never again. That never is now. I've been reflecting for many years. We're trying to fight for our freedom, for our human dignity, but it's getting worse. Why? Why Chinese Communist government can get away with what they're doing for the humanity? I think they have money. I think the legitimacy of Chinese Communist Party, it is coming from strong Chinese economy. The Chinese economy is fueled by forced labor, slave laborers. We need to stop Chinese Communist Party, but by stopping Chinese economy, so they can release those people in the forced labor camp or slave camps. The world is incentivizing Chinese Communist Party to put these people in the concentration camps or slave laborers camps because we keep buying made in China. Made in China is made in concentration camp. Today, I want to ask Walmart, the biggest distributor of the made in China product in the United States. Dear Walmart executives, for many years, you said, save money, live better. Today, I ask Walmart to say, save lives, live better. I want you to repeat after me. Save life, live better. Walmart.
Save lives, live better.
Save lives, live better.
Save lives, live better.
I want Walmart to listen. Save lives, live better, because you want to save $1 for those people who want to buy cheap, made in China product. That is why our brothers and sisters are dying in the concentration camp. We need to stop Chinese Communist Party by stopping Chinese economy, because every dollar China is making is coming from the blood and the sweat of innocent people. Recently, the Uyghur the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act has passed the House. I encourage Senate to pass the bill so we can save lives. And I want to ask my dear Uyghur fellows, my Tibetan brothers, Hong Kongers, Mongolians, we need to change our strategy. Every step we take to save life has to have financial consequences for Chinese Communist Party. The human rights concern will not concern China, but stopping Chinese economy will concern immediately. They will take us seriously when they stop making money. I want to thank you again for inviting me here. Thank you, Al-Fadar and Max, for organizing this event. Thank you, my Uyghur brothers and sisters, for standing up for innocent people back home. And thank you, everyone. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Kuzat. Save life, live better. Save life, live better. This is the message to Walmart. And next speaker we have Congressman Scott Perry. Congressman Perry is the sponsor of the Independence for Tibet Act. So all the Tibetans are very grateful for this initiative, Congressman, and we've been looking for this kind of act in the Congress. And there's not only the Tibetans, but all the others, the Uyghurs, the Mongolians. And so thank you very much for standing up to China. Congressman Scott Perry.
Well, thank you so much, and you're very, very kind. It's easy to just do the right thing, right? And I was honored yesterday. Many folks from Tibet, Tibetan heritage, Taiwan, the Uyghurs, Mongolians all came to my office to talk to me about what's happening to them and what has happened to them, and we simply cannot stand for it. We simply cannot allow it, and it takes more than conversations, more than discussions. Takes action. Action is what is required. So I thank you for the opportunity and to be here with you today. I'm grateful for your courage, standing up against a horrific, tyrannical regime in China, the Communist Party of China. And I'm happy to stand with you in conviction against the tyranny of the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP is an abject moral failure. You know this. It is decrepit, it is demonic, it is an institution that subjugates and enslaves the people it has dominion over. In the past 100 years, our world saw the rise of communism in the Soviet Union, and we witnessed freedom imperiled by evil. And we're witnessing it right now today, right as we stand here. It is happening right now today. But it cannot be allowed to endure. It cannot be allowed to endure. We are now confronted with this manifestation of communism and totalitarianism in the Communist Chinese Party. I will continue to tell everyone who cares to listen, and even those who care not to listen, over and over again, as many times as it takes, what is in front of us. We must be the generation that confronts and defeats and ends the wicked regime of the CCP. This morning I had the honor of introducing a bill in the United States House of Representatives that assigns a title befitting the Chinese Communist Party, that of transnational criminal organization, because that's what they are. They are criminals. This bill, exactly what it does is it allows us to apply the RICO statutes, the racketeering statutes, to those involved with the Communist Party, whether they're in China or whether they're in the United States of America, with real penalties, including prison. Going to prison for criminal activities on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. This bill eliminates the sovereign immunity of the CCP, ensuring that even their diplomats who are working here, if they're involved in criminal activity, they can be subject to this. The CCP cannot be given a pass, cannot be absolved of justice just because it's ruling China. And that's what's happened. Because they can declare themselves the legitimate government of China, they're allowed to get away with it. They're allowed to get away with oppression, concentration camps, all kinds of horrific things that you already know about. Whether it's the Falun Gong, whether it's our friends in Mongolia, whether it's taking over Tibet, all of it has to end. And it's criminal activity that must be recognized and stood against by the whole world community, and the United States must lead. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you here today, and thank those of you for listening, and thank those of you who are standing up. Because when you do, when you stand up, you know that the Chinese Communist Party puts a mark on you, right? They're after every single one of us here, and they would do what they can to extinguish our voices. But we're not going to let them, because we're going to stand together, and we're going to do something about the scourge of the Communist Chinese Party, and we're going to hold them accountable, we're going to bring them to justice, and we're going to end their tyranny. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Congressman Perry, for your words of support for all of us. It takes courage, Congressman, to stand up to China and speak openly at a rally here at the Global Day Action. Thank you very much for standing up to China. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Yang Jinling from the Initiative for China. Dr. Yang Jinling has been standing up to China for ever since. So please, Dr. Yang Jinling.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 70 years ago, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, founded the People's Republic of China. But it is neither of the people nor a republic. Instead, it is a hell on earth. By even most conservative estimates, the CCP's rule in China has resulted the unnatural death of nearly 100 million people in the past 71 years. On average, that is more than 3,000 people dying tragic death every single day. The victims include Chinese, Tibetans, Uyghurs, Mongolians, Hong Kongers, Christians, Falun Gong practitioners, and the people of other faiths, men, women, children, and the elderly. The CCP's hands are also tainted with blood for the lives of people around the world by extending its evil to embolden dictators in North Korea, Iran, Sudan, Syria, Cuba, Venezuela, and elsewhere. Today, under the dictator Xi Jinping, who is following in the footsteps of China's bloodiest dictator Mao Zedong, the CCP is deploying an Orwellian mass control system, perpetrating the 21st century concentration camps, the annihilation of civil society in China, the cultural and literal genocide of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and Mongolians, the political cultural genocide of the people of Hong Kong, and the military intimidation to democratic Taiwan. It has maliciously propagated COVID-19 pandemic that has killed over 1 million people worldwide, bringing the whole world into a health and economic disaster. China now is the #1 threat to world security and peace. The question today before us is thus: will we allow this threat from the CCP to continue for another 71 years, 71 months, or even 71 days? Let us join hands in preventing Xi Jinping's long-term dream of a world-dominating Chinese Communist empire from becoming a reality. Let's fight together for our freedom and extend it to all trapped in the CCP's oppressive yoke. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yang Jianling. You've been a staunch supporter of Tibet, and thank you for keep coming and supporting us. And we need more prominent Chinese activists to support all of us here. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to ask Ishat Hassan from World Uyghur Congress to say a few words. Do we have Ishat here? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for the organizer and for all the people here to support this event. When the U.S. was founded, one of the fathers of the U.S., Benjamin Franklin, once said, "Without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech." In October 1949, 71 years ago, the Communist Chinese regime celebrated their founding. And today, again, they are celebrating 71 years. But this 71 years was tainted by the blood of Uyghur, Tibetan, Mongolian, Chinese, and others. Starting from the establishment of the People's Republic of China, China started its expansionism to fight with the freed world. They fight in the Korean War, sides with Kim Jong-un dynasty. They fight it in Vietnam, together with Vietnamese communists. And then, after occupying Tibet and East Turkestan, they fight the border war with India, with, at the time, the Soviet Union. Constantly, the Chinese government is not only oppressing the people under their criminal rule, also killing the people with their has been a neighbor. And now, with this Chinese virus, its threat directly come to U.S., come to each one of the country in the world. We are paying the big price for this evil empire. But for a long time, our politician naively thinks the Chinese communist is less evil than Soviet communist. But it doesn't matter the name. Fascism, Nazism, communism, they're all evil. They're violent, they are bloodthirsty, they have mass arrest, they are mass killing. That is the character of the communist. Now, even though it's too late, but we still have the last chance to defeat this evil empire and free all the people under its yoke of tyranny. The Uyghur people, the Tibetan, the Mongolian, the Chinese, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese, we all need to come together, stand with free will to defeat this evil empire. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishad. So there are a few guests that I'm waiting to come in. So next I would like to ask Jeffrey Ngo from DC for Hong Kong, Washingtonian supporting Hong Kong. Jeffrey?
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me today, and it's good to see such a high turnout. The DC4HK was actually founded. Yeah, actually, I'll take over. Yeah, so DC4HK was actually founded last year, last summer. You know, when Hong Kong, when the anti-extradition protests in Hong Kong broke out, and there was a need in Washington here to hold solidarity rallies in support of the movement back then. But actually, you know, the Hong Kong community in Washington, it was nothing new. You know, that we're coming together. It was actually 6 years ago, precisely on this day, October 1st, when we held our very first rally during the Umbrella Movement, which was back then about protesting Beijing's decision not to honor the promises that it has made in one country, two systems to allow democratic reform in Hong Kong. And obviously, things have deteriorated, you know, a lot over the years, and especially over the past year, with the extradition bill that failed to pass. But now there are calls for you know, police reform and other demands as well. And since June 30th this year, so it's been 3 months and a day now with the new national security law, and a lot of what Hong Kongers do right now, can be deemed as being illegal, including coming to this rally, half a world away. So, so the situation is very difficult. But I'm happy to see, some of us here today, including those who've been with us since 6 years ago, the umbrella movement. And of course, it's always good to have the support, from different communities, including the Taiwanese, the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, and in turn, we of course also support all of these groups because we face together the repression from China. For those of many of you who follow Hong Kong situation on a daily basis, you will be familiar with the situation with the 12 protesters who, out of desperation, fled Hong Kong by boat, intending to go to Taiwan, but the boat was intercepted last month in the waters just outside Guangdong province, and so they were caught by the customs, and now they will face trial in China, and this is precisely the very thing that we have been protesting for well over a year now. With the extradition bill, the idea that Hong Kongers should face trial in Hong Kong and not be sent to China where there's no rule of law. Well, the thing that we worry so much, we have been worrying so much, is now what will face the 12 protesters, the 12 young people. And the only reason why they had to flee at all is because they were arrested over the past year for protesting. And we can expect that with the new national security law, with thousands of Hong Kong protesters having been arrested so far, and will continue to be arrested, that more and more people will need help. And so, being in DC, there's a lot that we can do, and I'm grateful for the members of Congress who have spoken so far today and who will speak later. And among the legislative efforts that we are trying to support right now are the bills that will make it easier for Hong Kongers in need to seek asylum in the United States, and a range of other efforts. And and being in DC and seeing so many of our friends here today, hopefully, we can get more support for those initiatives. And in turn, it has been very uplifting to see over the past year or two just the number of bills that have gone through Congress, or have made some movement, whether at committee or in one chamber or another, in terms of supporting the Taiwanese, the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, and other groups facing repression from China. And I think we have witnessed a fundamental shift in terms of U.S.-China relations, and we can expect that in the years ahead that we will be getting more support from many different groups in DC, and hopefully we can continue to work together moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. See you coming. Free Hong Kong, free Tibet, free Uyghur.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yes, free Hong Kong, free Tibet, free East Turkestan, free Southern Mongolia. Resist China. So next, I would like to ask Mr. Frank Gaffney, who is the Vice President of Committee on the Present Danger, China. Mr. Gaffney?
Everybody, good to see you. Well, welcome to the steps of the United States Capitol, where freedom still applies. We're here today in solidarity with people for whom freedom no longer applies, but who are entitled to it, who deserve to have it restored, and with God's grace and the help of the United States of America, I pray that we are going to see the captive nations enslaved by the Chinese Communist Party return to sovereign, free nations, along with the opportunity for the people of China to be liberated from the most repressive and now increasingly dangerous government on earth. We in the United States have a special interest in this, of course, not only after all because of our commitment to human rights, our belief in the inalienable right, particularly to freedom of religion, which is, of course, anathema to the Chinese Communist Party. But also because we are on notice here in America that the Chinese Communist Party intends to enslave us too. And we will not let that happen. What we now must do, both to try to achieve the liberation of the enslaved peoples of the captive nations of China, and prevent the enslavement of myriad countries around the world that are now being targeted by China through their Belt and Road Initiative, is to do to the Chinese Communist Party what my old boss Ronald Reagan did to the Soviet Communist Party, which was basically to put it out of business. And the way that Reagan did, among others, and the way that we must do today, is to cut off the cash flow that enables the Chinese Communist Party to be in the business of enslaving people and oppressing people and murdering people and otherwise dominating the entire world. So I'm very pleased to introduce to you a new initiative, which we hope, with the help of those who are seeking to resist China more generally, will enable us to prevent the Chinese Communist Party from continuing to exist, let alone to continue to pursue its malevolent ambitions. Divest China now is the ticket, and we need your help with it. Because at the end of the day, we want, in addition to helping those enslaved people here with us today and the millions and millions of others they represent, to help us defend America. Because let's face it, it is the last best hope of mankind, including all those now being subjected to horrors unimaginable to us by the Chinese Communist Party. But defending America and the rest of the free world requires us to defund China. We urge you to help with this. Go to defund China now, divestchinanow.org. Sign up. You can find elected representatives, if you're Americans, to engage with from the president on down. And again, with your help and God's grace, freedom will triumph over the terror and the horrors of the Chinese Communist Party. God bless you all, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
that says, defend America, defund China.
Defund China!
Absolutely, defund China! Defund China!
Defund China!
We've been here for 2 hours now, and we've heard many, many speakers, but you came here to make your voice heard. So maybe we need some chants here. Here's it. Resist China!
Resist China!
Freedom now!
Freedom now!
Resist China!
Resist China!
Freedom now!
Freedom now!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free East Turkestan! Free East Turkestan! Free East Turkestan! Free Southern Mongolia! Free Southern Mongolia! Free Southern Mongolia! Free Hong Kong now! Free Hong Kong now! Free Hong Kong now! Resist China! Freedom now! Resist China! Freedom now! Shame on CCP! Shame on CCP! Shame on CCP! China lies, people die! China lies, people die! Freedom in China! Human rights in China! Freedom in China! Human rights in China! Resist China now! Freedom now! Freedom now! Free Tibet now! Free Tibet now! Free Tibet now! Free East Turkestan now! Free East Turkestan! Free East Turkestan! Free Southern Mongolia now! Free Southern Mongolia now! Free Hong Kong now! What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Down, down, CCP! Shame, shame, China, shame! Shame, shame, China, shame! We need more slogans. So next, I would ask Dorje Seden to come up and speak. Dorje Seden is the Executive Director of Students for Free Tibet. SFT is one of the organizers of this event, Global Day Action. Dorje Seden?
Thank you, Tenzin Bashila. Our final speaker, Congressman Ted Yoho, will be joining us very soon. He's in a meeting and he's willing to join with us today in our fight for freedom. He has been a great supporter for our cause. I take this opportunity to ask everyone, can we pay a moment of silence for people who sacrificed their life, people who are still suffering in Tibet, in East Turkestan, in southern Mongolia, in Hong Kong, and people, our Chinese brothers and sisters who are fighting for democracy and freedom. So may I ask everyone to join me to pay a moment of silence for everyone who have lost their life and who are continuously resisting for our freedom. Moment of silence begin. Thank you, everyone. I also like to take this opportunity to say a few words in Tibetan. We have Tibetan media here. There are only few sources of information that Tibetan people are able to listen. I would like to take this opportunity to say a few words for our Tibetan brothers and sisters who are here, and our brothers and sisters who are listening us, watching us from all over the world and inside Tibet. Teri ngaranso ari ge troso ge duntan la gyana mima chitun gyakap gotsu che lo dunju duji korwe ge tusu di tap dun che teri ngaso de ngogo legu pegi yore. Teri ngaranso de Washington DC la de zomche mi mangu shuji pesha din nanshi amulinge 종계 체중 중줄 하스 낭로라 미망게 레규 빼기 요래 레규디 베드 탑저바 다 레규바 존네 티베 토네 샤 투르키스탄레 홍콩레 클로속보레 테베레 대가나시 야나 망소 드녜와 상만 냠루기 토네 레규 빼기 요래 배 토네 ngaran 속에 배 약합 라왕랑제 탑수 체도 배 진주 제원의 송제 야나게 탑수 제와래 잠불링랑 가서 슈두 제와래 이니야 다자 잠불링 나로라 유와 쳔보지 도체 찹시기 유와 도체 야나라 돈에 체와 값서 가서 고급디 심제 때리데 레규 빼기요래 가서 배대 탑수라 누바요래 가서 싸워라니 심추 차야요 말해 대리 가나서 내 레규 빼토에 참마 좀 투에디 통마 저자 등에디 배드 탑세 와래 다리 잠불링 용라 야나라 돈에 징에 참마 냠루 돈에 탑세 제토에디 만서 탑세 그 누바래 이내 게 대린데 벽에 돈에 망부 쉬고메 내가 가나서 잡교와다 탑세와 망부 쉬우지요래 이내 내가 치야디 대리 가서 내마 되지 레규 빼야디 개치부 차기요래 챔시기 레규 빼야디 개치부 차기요래 Nielam Niola Yana Shunge Numa Juche Tandechala Shimjuche Kange Tiki Wadanga Hakugore Tiki Luju Taundu Pedu Tapsuki Chelsea Liguda Nansuki Ligu di Torshi Tangata Digi Tapching Batinche and it cut Neboshe and a Chiso Nanglo Zune Torshi Tangi Wanga Hakugore Di Yana Shunge Hapu Tangure 대송상 안서 링게디 배 약합의 미리 탑재 체도 잠블링 용라 배 나로게 비미스게 진삽 체생 가서 레규 빼고 돼 개침고 차디기요래 대송사 데리데 나라서 디시는 슝에다 대가다시 초다칸에 팽에 배바 용라 냠슈 나와 닌타반 투치나 쉬어이 So before our final speaker arrives, we would like to take this opportunity as the organizing committee, as part of our conclusion, to thank together. For long we have been separated. For long we have fought our fight individually. Now time has arrived that we all come together and fight for our freedom. Today, when we gather here as part of the Global Day of Action, our friends, allies, supporters in over 60 cities are joining and resisting China. As we are planning for this event, as we have heard from young Hong Kongers, activists here among us, we are hearing this sad news in Hong Kong today, this very moment. People's rights are taken away. A foreigner wearing Tibet t-shirt was pulled behind and asked. Hong Kongers who call for democracy are threatened. But remember, those who use violence, it's not a sign of power, it's a weakness. Chinese government, which is known to have the biggest military, are threatened by young Hong Kongers, students and activists. They are weak. That's why they try to use the violence to suppress us, suppress our voice, and make us feel threatened by them. But we say no. We know that as people who are part of the movement, whenever there is a repression, there is a resistance. And today, when we all gather together as our fight for freedom, it is a sign that people's resistance is growing. People's resistance is growing in East Turkestan. People's resistance is growing in Tibet, in southern Mongolia, in Hong Kong, in China. That is why millions of people, Uyghurs, innocent families are behind concentration camp. Why? Because Chinese government is threatened. Chinese human rights activists and lawyers are putting behind prison. Why? Because Chinese government don't want them to caution. But we must remember, in our fight for freedom, we are our biggest allies. We can call for Congress support. We can call for United States support. But it is us. When we come together, people will rally behind us. At this time, when Chinese government has not only threatened the lives of people in Tibet, in East Turkestan, Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, Chinese communist regime is a threat to the global security, democracy, freedom. That's why it is us now, our time to lead the global community, to tell them, to share our experience and be as an ally, to protect our own freedom, at the same time to protect democracy and freedom of international community. I want to thank our Uyghur brothers and sisters who have done the political theater today. They have worked so hard so that we can understand what is happening in East Turkestan today. I want to assure you that we are all together As long as we resist, we have hope. As long as we fight, we will win one day. I take this opportunity for our co-organizers and speakers here today. We worked for months. We have prepared for this global day of action. And international community have seen our resistance. International community has finally waken up. It is our time to work, to be strong, and to tell China, and to tell Xi Jinping, his days is numbered now. With that, I again take this opportunity as an organizer of this, one of the organizers of the event, to thank all our supporters and media. And we have maybe a couple of more minutes to join, to have our final speaker of the rally. Sudah. Frank. Sudah? Ala? Yeah, okay. Ali, we have the congressman here. So you want to invite? Oh. Lah, okay. Marian, interview cikgu apa gila? Can I back? Okay, let's have some slogan before we have our speaker. When I say resist, you say China. Resist! China! Resist! China! Resist! China! Free! Tibet! Free! Tibet! Free! Tibet! Free! Tibet! East Turkestan! Free! East Turkestan! Free! East Turkestan! Free! Free Southern Mongolia! Free! Southern Mongolia! Free! Southern Mongolia! Free! Southern Mongolia! Free! Free Hong Kong! Free Hong Kong! Free Hong Kong! Democracy in China! Democracy in China! Democracy in China! Resist! 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 Shame on Xi Jinping! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Resist! 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 Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Resist! 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 Pégalo! Pégalo! Can you introduce Dr. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Chatela. So, we are here now waiting for the final speaker, Congressman Yo. So while we're waiting for Congressman to be done with the interview, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here and ask to let's keep the united fight going. We must keep on to stay united on this fight against communist China. United, as we say, we are strong. I'd like to see this global day action become a global action every day. We have a responsibility to our relatives, our family, our countrymen in our country to shame China, everywhere and every day. We need to point out, this is our weapon. China hates to lose face, and we will make their face, China will lose face in front of us. Our union, our united fight. Let's make sure that this fight keeps on going, not just one day. So we have Congressman Ted Yoho.
Richard Manning, Divest China. Divest China. Okay. Divest China now.
My apologies. The next speaker is Richard Manning from Divest China.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. A few months ago, we decided to start a group called divestchinanow.org. In my real life, I am the president of Americans for Limited Government. And the reason people often ask, well, why do Americans for Limited Government care about divesting from China? And it's very simple. There's no other country in the world that is as much of an existential threat to freedom than China right now. The Red Chinese government, the Xi government, is determined to destroy the United States of America and destroy freedom, destroy the beacon of hope for the world, of freedom for the world, because the fact is, his government cannot stand as long as there is hope for freedom, because hope is what keeps people alive, it's what keeps people fighting. So as long as America stands strong, his government cannot succeed in what they're trying to do. So as Americans for Limited Government, as the head of Americans for Limited Government, I said, what's the biggest problem here? What can I do to help? And the answer was pretty obvious. The fact is, and this is a sad fact, we know that the Chinese government is putting people in concentration camps, millions of people. We know the Chinese government is engaging in forced organ harvesting. We know that the Chinese government is engaged in attacks on their neighbors in India, Tibet, and the Mongolians. They're attacking all their neighbors in the vicinity. We know that they're expanding their military dramatically to try to take the whole South China Sea and beyond. And so what can we do about it? Well, the single thing that America could do right now about it is to stop funding that expansion, to deny them American dollars. And right now, just at one simple area, most people don't realize that American retirement funds, private retirement funds, if you are in a balanced fund, a Vanguard or Fidelity or one of those balanced kind of funds where they put you everywhere, guess what? You're invested in China. You're invested in the very companies that are enslaving the people of China. That's who you're invested in. And Americans don't want to be invested in slavery. They don't want to be slaveholders. We rejected that a long time ago. And the fact that we are using our retirement funds, that Wall Street is putting our retirement funds into China is abhorrent, because they're turning every American, through our pensions, through our retirements, through our 401ks, through our regular investments in mutual funds, they're turning every American into slave profiteers. And they're providing Xi the capital, the money, to fund his expansion, which is aimed at the United States, but it's also oppressing millions upon millions of people. So what do you do about it? I said, well, the thing we need to do about it is figure out who controls that money. And the fact is, $250 billion of U.S. private retirement funds could be taken out of China tomorrow if the U.S. Department of Labor, where I used to work,
the U.S. Department of Labor made a simple decision that it's unsafe for retirement funds to be in China. At that point, it would require Wall Street to do something very simple and very important. Wall Street would have to create non-China mutual funds because they would no longer be able to invest our money into China. So how do we get this done? How do we get this done? How do we get this done as a people? Well, we set up the divestchinanow.org website with the idea that that's one of the ways we're going to do it, because on there you can learn more about the investments in China. You can learn more about the abuses of the people by China, but you can also learn that get a letter that you can send to your congressman, to your senators, to the president about this. And trust me, that matters. I know that this is at the top level at the White House. The president is concerned about this and is doing something about it. He's already blocked the federal 401k plan from being able to invest their dollars into China, denying China hundreds of millions of dollars of capital. He's already done that. That's what President Trump has already done. The National Security Advisor and Larry Kudlow, who is the National Economic Advisor, they have both sent letters to various U.S. federal government retirement funds saying, divest from China. It's not safe. We know that the Undersecretary of State for Economic Development, Keith Cratch, has sent a letter to all the universities saying, you need to get all your money, all that extra endowment money, you need to get it out of China because it's not safe there. Not to mention being immoral to have your money there. So the word is getting out. But what we're doing is just started. We got a vote in the Senate. Nobody disagreed. Democrat and Republican disagreed that we need to get investments out of China. Now the question is, will you and all the rest of the American people stand up and say, divest China now? Because if we don't divest China now, we are responsible for the atrocities being created under the name of President Xi. And we do not want to be responsible for slavery, oppression, forced organ harvesting, and the abuse of the Chinese people and their neighbors. So today, it's divestchinanow.org, and that's why we started it. That's what we're doing, and I hope that you all will go onto the website and help out and spread the word, because the more voices that are heard, the better chance we have to affect the policy. And right now is when to do it. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, we must divest China. We have a responsibility to do this to protect America. Defend America, divest China. So we're still a few minutes away from Congressman Ted Yoho. So in between, I'm going to ask Mr. Abdul Hakim from Uyghur Congress to say a few words. If we can have Mr. Hakim.
You want me to hold our flags? Assalamu alaikum aziz qarindoshlar. Kongressman kelguncha ikki qiz gap qilish menga bir fursat tikibdi. Birinchidan, sizlarning bugun taqdim qilgan bu tutqunlarni ichkiriga yo'tkash ishini ko'rib o'zimni tutolmay qoldim. Inillarim, ochillarim, singillarim, qarindoshlarim ko'z oldimga keldi. Hatto jasorat qilib yeninglarga berib qarashqimi jur'at qilolmadim. O'ylab beqinglar, bu aja, bu eg'irchilik 3 yil bo'ldi har uyda. Uxlasak dat, o'g'ansak dat, tush ko'rsak dat, mangsak dat, buni bilan ketib boramiz. Yana Allohga shukrki, bu tag'ut vayron bo'lish oldida. Hammadan o'zining qo'ldan kelgan narsani qilib o'tadi. Men bir ikki qiz 5-6 oyning ichida qilgan o'zimning gaplarimni inglizchani yaxshi qilolmasammi, bir qilib boqay. Qusura bakmasdan, eg'ir ko'rmasdan anglab beqinglar. What's happened right now in East Turkestan is genocide. I'm like everybody here.
I lost contact with my mom, with my dad, with my parents. I don't know who they are, alive or dead. I think on them before I go to sleep. My day begin with them. It's depressing me, depressing my family, depressing my children. And I look around the world, which I speak many languages. If I look in Arabic language, there's small talk about the Turkestan or Uyghur issue. So, China declaring war on religion, particularly on Islam. They're burning Quran, they're destroying mosques, they're destroying our cemetery, they're turning mosque to pig house. But nobody in Islamic world say one word about us. I'm thinking about it. Do we are really Muslim Uyghur or they are another Muslim? I'm thinking that. So I'm working on this issue in Islamic world. Because if they know what's happened really in China, we can activate them. Before the China occupied or colonized Western country, they will colonize Islamic country. If you look around East Turkestan today, look at Pakistan, what become Pakistan? Pakistan is like a province of China. China putting XPCC, Big Twin, in China, Gwadar Port. They're already living more than 50,000 Chinese in a big settlement. The Pakistani coming there, working for the Chinese people as a cleaner or another issue. They have own police, own education system, like a Big Twin by us. They're moving from East Turkestan and they're making Pakistan next to Xinjiang. That's what's to happen. We want to tell our brother and sister in Pakistan, we will be help them be free from China, making them azad again. Same things happen in Turkey, which our leader there we love Turkey. You see, our flag is like a Turkish flag, but our leader in Turkey talking in the UN, I'm very depressed. He, talking every Muslim depressed around the world, except us Uyghurs. He can't talk about us. Look Iran and Khomeini, Ali Khamenei. If somebody declared in Facebook or Twitter, I'm going to burn a Quran, he will give a fatwa to kill him. But if Xi Jinping come to Tehran, under the foot of big Khomeini, they're sitting chatting with them. Xi Jinping is against Islam, against any religion in the China right now. Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, when he was president of Iran, he visited Kashgar. He went to our Eitkah mosque. He prayed there. But today, I will tell the supreme leader of Iran, the Eitkah mosque is closed. There's no more prayer. Can you imagine that? Same is which I studied in Cairo, 4 years. The Al-Azhar University is more than 1,000 years old university. Islamic scholars, everything. But what did happen there? They sent Uyghur students to China, which they killed. They become complicit with the CCP or Communist China. And what's happening in Egypt right now? In Egypt, the Chinese building special economic region, like a Tida region, or Sison, or new capital. What Hulaku, Mongols didn't occupy Egypt and Cairo, Xi Jinping doing it. I tell all my brother and sister around the Islamic world, that China, before they occupied Europe, before they go to Europe or the Western country, they occupied first the Islamic country. They should wake up. I have still time, Mr. Dorj. Okay.